Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Cool's Reviews Deep Dives. We got a whole host of faces you guys should recognize from one video or another. Up top, we got Skipper David. Looks like he's having an encounter with a shark in the background there. David, are you doing okay? Do you have the shark under control?
Yeah, it's been all right so far. We just got to keep an eye on it.
Okay. Next to him, we got the experiencer of all things, including sharks. Nick, I heard you were going to go experience sharks by swimming with them in the aquarium. Did this happen?
Not yet, but we'll see.
All right, stay tuned. We do have a GoPro ready to go. Below him, we got Greyson. Greyson, how are you doing? Looking quite fancy down there.
Yeah, new spectacles, new background, new everything. No, everything's just been, ease what it is, boys. Ease what it is. That's what she says, and I'm freaking to it.
Yeah, and then we got Nolan. The ocean is scary. Nolan, what aspect of the ocean? Just the whole ocean, the depths, the animals? What are we talking?
You ever seen the ocean? You ever been in the ocean? You ever see what happens at the bottom of the ocean?
Yes.
Damn,
Maybe
nature's
not
scary.
Yeah, the ocean is scary. We've seen stuff recently. What could happen there? And then, of course, you guys should know author John LeMay from Roswell. He's actually written the history of unmade Jaws books, or Jaws movies, I should say.
I like how everybody on the top has the cool shark backgrounds, and everybody on the bottom is just normal.
It's balances. All things should be in the wise words of Thanos, right?
Yeah.
John, thank you for joining us. Obviously, you have is it your most popular book is the Jaws book that you've written?
It is. It's the best-selling book I've ever done, which is weird because I'm a Jaws fan, but I'm more of a Godzilla person. That's like my thing. Jaws isn't my thing, but I like it.
Well, one of those is way more plausible, Like,
right,
I wish
with all the
Godzilla was
radiation in
real,
the sky
but-
today.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I can't wait for the kaiju to come out of the ocean.
Going back to the film here, we're talking about Jaws. I'm sure most people watching this have seen the film. Super iconic. It's been out for 50 years now, as
Nope,
of the
I've never seen it.
20th. Nolan, you know what? Just
I'm
gonna
kidding.
Take you right off the stream. Then.
Hey, get out of here. Not in all 50 years, still haven't seen it. No. It's funny that you say that, though, because I did watch it. I literally watched it today. Just to recap, get a little refresh on there. Yeah, because I'm thinking about it now. Like, I don't think I've actually ever watched it all the way through. Like, I've always caught because I've never sat down to like actually like watch it. I've always seen like bits and pieces, and obviously like the most memorable bits of it, right? Like you see those and like Jaws culture, just in general, right? But I don't think I've ever sat down and like watched it like beginning to end until today, or like sat there and I actually watched it and I was like, huh. But we got some good stuff to get into.
I like that you just Jaws culture, like it's a lifestyle, the way of the shark.
It is, if you think about it, right? Because like I don't know, it's
they do have a whole Shark Week, right? They have a whole.
I'm sure Shark Week spawned off of this, but it's Jaws is iconic, man, in a lot of ways, So.
Well, and John, you can maybe go into this too. Like, it spawned a whole host of Jaws like ripoffs or parodies, right?
Yeah, there's tons of them that use that formula. Like, it's always there's always like a lady that gets eaten in the water, and then there's always like a big event on the beach or in the ocean, or that they can't cancel that the monster attacks. So yeah, totally, it's a formula.
Or a grizzly bear,
Yeah,
I do like that. It's like, oh, we can't cancel this event. People will die. I know, but we have to move forward. We have to do it.
See, in the book, it makes more sense. Yeah. No, I was going to say, in the book, it makes a lot more sense why he doesn't want to close the beaches, because he's in bed with the mafia who owns pretty much the whole city. And so
that's got to be a really big bed.
Yeah. But if he loses the money, they lose the money. He's probably going to be sleeping with the fishes. You know what I mean?
We won't even need a shark. You're just going to be.
Yeah. Has anyone else read Peter Benchley's Jaws?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, but I was looking it up. I might pick it up here sometime soon.
It's
honestly, I want to hear more about John's book here. So it's about Jaws movies that were never made. Like, was it just planned, or what is it about?
I was gonna say, like, secondary question to that. was that, or was it just like Jaws formulated movies of like, you know what I mean, that weren't made? It was like we just
like
got an idea,
inspired.
big shark, you know what I mean, like eats people. All right, cool. Like
you could say like my books are kind of like those old deceptive VHS covers that they promise one thing and then they deliver another. So I mean, there's enough of like unmade Jaws stuff in there to make the title true. But then, yeah, a lot of it's all the really rare ripoffs that aren't widely seen today. And, like Jaws 2 got made, but there was also a totally unfinished version of Jaws 2 with a different director. And I just brought it up because Keegan was talking about the Mafia subplot from the book. Well, the Mafia subplot from the book, they worked into the original script for Jaws 2, and they even shot some of the whole Mafia angle, and then they ended up like editing it out later. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to the production behind all those 4 Jaws movies and an unproduced 5th one and all the rip-offs.
Did they get rid of it just because it's like too complicated of a plot line, or they just wanted to be like, we don't want to have ties to the mafia with like a big shark or something?
I can't remember what it was. I think it just had to do with they didn't like that director and they wanted to like cut out all vestiges and traces of his version of the movie, and it's kind of like one of those Hollywood things where they got mad at him.
Yeah, as somebody once famously said, it's Hollywood, baby. Yeah.
What about Jaws 3 People Zero?
Yeah, so that was, I mean, man, I wish we could have seen that movie. It would have, I say it would have sunk the franchise. All we'd be missing was Jaws Revenge, I guess. Which wouldn't be too terrible.
So, do you consider something like The Meg? Would that be considered a Jaws kind of rip-off, spin-off, like inspired by kind of a modern take on the shark movie?
Yeah, I would say The Meg was birthed from Jaws, and then that's another thing, Keegan, right? In the book, isn't the shark in the book a megalodon, Keegan? Is that right, or
is it?
Yeah. So Hooper makes a big long spiel while they're being attacked. He's like, I think it could be a megalodon. And Brody the whole time's like, I don't care. Let's just kill the dumb thing.
Yeah. I don't care what it is.
So Hooper, vastly different than what we get in the movie as well. He actually has an affair with Brody's wife.
Oh, damn.
There's a whole lot of different plots that don't go. And it's like Jurassic Park, but even more so, like with so much of the unmade stuff. Now, David, I see you got a Jaws ride behind you. Did you get to go on the Jaws ride before it shut down?
Absolutely. I even worked the Jaws ride a couple of days. At least the one in Orlando. That was the actual Jaws ride. It wasn't just part of the tour like they do at the Universal Studios Hollywood.
We just random park worker now, David? Like,
what do you mean?
You said you worked it for a few days, and I was like, wait, did you just say, hey, I would like to just work on this ride? Like,
no, they have a system at Universal. They have sometimes when they're low on staffing, people from other attractions that have enough people can like choose to go and help out. It's kind of like a substitute teacher type thing.
That's kind of cool. That's something I didn't know that you could.
Usually, like I wasn't able to be the actual like giving the tour because I don't know the spiel. I wasn't like signed off training wise and stuff, but I got to help out in there and like be on the boats a little bit and like just help out with random, miscellaneous things around there.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and this was right before it shut down.
You have to know though, like most likely is just you got to know the spiel or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, it's fun. I miss the attraction. I mean, I understand why it's gone now because that's of course where they built Diagon Alley and everything for the Harry Potter franchise to continue. But it was great. And kind of that in-between time before Jaws was totally gone and they started building all the big Harry Potter stuff, that area was always used also for Halloween Horror Nights. And they would do one of the big houses like back in the queue of the ride and stuff, build all that in. And it was almost always a nautical theme somewhat. So it was pretty cool.
They got the water. It makes sense.
Yeah, they had the water there. They already had a lot of the structure looking like old boathouses and things like that. Yeah. So it was a real easy jump to do whatever they wanted in that area to have like Revenge of the Mermaids or whatever.
Plus, at the same time, you have a big mechanical shark. Like you can scare the shit out of some people with that, I'm sure.
Yes. And his name is Bruce.
Bruce, yeah.
Which is
Bruce.
funny because they named him Bruce long before Finding Nemo came out. So I kind of wonder if when they did that, if somebody knew about that from the Universal ride and was like, let's call it that.
Well, because I mean, like Bruce and and Finding Nemo was a great white, so it makes sense.
Well, yeah, the shark
That's
was
why they named him
named.
Bruce.
Yeah, they named him Bruce because he was named after Spielberg's lawyer, from what I remember.
Shark.
Yeah, so they're like, make him the shark.
I like Bruce.
Has anyone, or did anyone else get the chance to ride the American Jaws ride? I know Japan still has it, as well as I think Britain's going to be building it here soon. Yeah,
I don't know if Britain's going to get a Jaws ride.
I saw an article about it.
I don't think it makes sense to do Jaws again.
You don't think,
especially not in Britain?
Yeah, English Jaws, like Australian Jaws, maybe, absolutely. But
hey,
well,
Michael
because I heard
Caine, they just have Michael Caine narrating the whole ride.
I heard the possible big thing there is going to be Lord of the Rings.
Michael Caine, Batman, watch out for my teeth.
Hey, Michael Caine's never seen Jaws: The Revenge, but he did see the house it bought, so he's happy with it. Well, what about you guys? What is your first experience with Jaws? Obviously, I don't think any of us were alive when Jaws came out, but when was your guys' first experience? David?
Of seeing Jaws?
Of Jaws, yeah.
I have no idea. That's like asking when's the first time I saw Back to the Future or Ghostbusters. Like, I can't tell you an exact time. Definitely when I was much, much younger. It was definitely like when I was a young child kind of movie. And I've seen it plenty of times since then.
I think the first time I ever watched it was probably when I was in elementary school, right around the same time like movies like Deep Blue Sea were coming out. I watched it then, and then I just watched it like I watched the first half last night and watched the other half right before this podcast. And I've never seen any of the other films, but I've definitely seen this first one at least twice. And then also like going off of the whole Back to the Future, I just watched Back to the Future like 2 years ago.
Like in earnest, like all of it.
Yeah, no, just the first film. It was the first time ever watching it.
Well, no,
have you seen? Have you not seen all the Back to the Futures?
Mm-mm.
That is,
bro.
See, now that's even more crazy than me not seeing Jaws like in its entirety.
Yeah, dude. If you want to have a conversation on all the movies I haven't seen, just message me on Discord. It's a lot.
Do I have to make a list for you?
You can.
It's like it's one of those things. Like I had to make a list for like an ex-girlfriend once, but she was. That's a lovely comparison. I didn't realize.
Yeah,
that was
Nick, change your name to Burgle's Nolan's ex-girlfriend.
Well, I can tell you, she had significantly more hair.
Hey!
That was when you.
Hey,
that's when you dated. After you left her, all the hair left. She could. It was too stressful not having you in her life anymore. She fumbled so bad. Her hair left.
Sometimes it happens, but that's crazy. Honestly, Back to the Future was one of those movies that I was like, "This you've not seen this. This is."
It's almost like saying you've never seen the original Star Wars,
right? Like, and that was the thing.
I've seen that one. I have seen that one.
To her credit, she did see the Star Wars movies, but it was one of those things. Like I would always make Lord of the Rings references, and she would never get them. And I was like, "What?" I had to sit her down for 3 days straight to make her watch Lord of the Rings.
Grayson, it always reminds me when people say like not seeing Star Wars of How I Met Your Mother, when he's like, Ted, the only people who haven't seen Star Wars are the people in Star Wars because they lived the Star Wars.
100%.
Yes, I love that line. That's probably I say that all the time to people that haven't seen it. I'm like, come on, the only people that haven't seen it are the people in Star Wars.
Okay, so anyways, back to Jaws.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, that's Grayson. I believe it was your turn to tell us the first time you.
Well, in Nick's defense, I will say I haven't seen any of the Jaws past number 1. I've only seen the original. I've never really watched 2 through a billion. I have no idea how many there are.
I know that there's a 4th one, and the shark roars, which is scientifically impossible.
Have you met many sharks, Nick?
No, I haven't met many sharks.
Have you experienced many sharks, Nick?
Nope. You're absolutely right. You got me there. Okay.
I mean, looking at a whale, I wouldn't think that they could sing beautifully, but they can.
Well, that's okay. Fundamentally different.
No, they're both in the water. They're the same.
Fundamentally different.
They're in the water.
Drop into the water.
Not quite the same, David.
It's not quite the same.
Yep. If it's in the water, it's the same as Jaws.
One's a mammal, one's a fish. Grayson, what about you?
When did I first experience Jaws? It was actually when I lived in Washington. I saw with some friends. They talked about how scary the movie was, and I'm like maybe 10 at the time. I watched the movie and I'm like, this was scary. This is really what you guys were hyping up. I loved the movie. Don't get me wrong. It was sick watching the end where the shark blows up, but I kind of looked at my friends differently after that because I'm like, that's what you found scary? That was insane. There's no way you guys are scared because of that.
You didn't have the full experience of watching it on inner tubes in a river or lake.
No, that would
How
scare
does
me. That
Jaws
would definitely
keep
give me
coming
that
back?
childhood fear. 1,000%.
Well,
Is it a different shark in every movie?
It's a different shark, yeah.
yeah.
Then why do we still call it Jaws?
Well, because they all have
Because
jaws.
sharks have jaws. That's why.
Well, I mean, there's that, but David, at the same time, like, you know, you came from your dad, right? They still call you whatever your last name is, like.
Yeah, it's
Then
Bruce
they-
Jaws.
That's fine.
That is such
But
a bad
then they should be.
comparison.
Then they should have a different
I
person.
know, but well, it's just
It
because
should
like
be
there's a specific
like-
line in Jaws where he goes like, they eat, they make shark babies. That's it. Like, you know, it's like, well, that's why. That's how they do it. Because
So-
sharks have babies, David.
So, John, kicking it to you. What was your first experience with Jaws? And was the dead orca in Jaws 2 a dig at the film Orca?
So I was one of those like sheltered only children with no brothers and sisters, you know, where the parents like really insulated you. So like I never got to see Friday the 13th or Halloween or R-rated movies. And I think Jaws was the first like really bloody movie they let me see, and I was about 10 years old. So like yeah, it scared the crap out of me.
Well, it's
Like,
crazy.
just
'Cause, like,
everything about it scared the crap out of me. But I enjoyed it, you know, like I was you know, it was the bloodiest thing I'd ever seen. Again, I was like 10 years old, so it was pretty, you know, stimulating for lack of a better word. So yeah, it was an intense movie for me. Jaws 2, I luckily I actually reread my book for another Jaws podcast because everybody's obviously doing Jaws this month. And I read through the portion on Jaws 2, and they had that dead orca scene in the script before Orca was being developed or came out, if I remember right. So I think the dead orca was just coincidental, but I'm sure they were happy that it could be a dig at Dino De Laurentiis.
just happen to get lucky. Good
Yeah.
timing.
Happy to get lucky digging on a spoof of their movie, right?
Sometimes that's the way life works, man. You get lucky. I was gonna say that's crazy though, John, because realistically, like as far as like bloody movies go, I think there's honestly more fish blood than like people blood in Jaws.
That's
Yeah,
true.
But remember, this was also 50 years ago when they actually killed people in movies.
True.
So everything you see is actually happening. So it probably was one of the bloodiest
No,
movies. Like
no.
it was the first time as a kid that I saw somebody die on screen.
Fair.
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
Jurassic Park. I have to check.
I was gonna say I've seen Jurassic Park before I watched. Well, before I saw / knew what.
Right,
Jaws
but Jurassic
was.
Park, nobody died. Remember
What do you mean?
the
Dude
one
died
one
right at
guy.
the beginning, the first.
Right, no,
scene,
but I'm
guy
talking
died.
about the real deaths.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, that was all acting in Jurassic Park.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's true.
Jaws was too long ago for them to do that. They couldn't fake deaths until like the early 90s.
Well, and
Everything before that, real deaths.
to be fair with Jaws, I know it was going to be bloodier because there's a scene where they're in the pond and the guy that gets eaten was actually going to like jump in front of Michael and like shield him and get like ripped apart out of like while he's like holding him away from the shark.
Oh, jeez.
And then, you know, the Kittner boy, they had filmed where the shark comes up behind and just like gobbles up and rips the kid apart. And Spielberg was like, no, it looks kind of funny. I think he got some weird feedback with it. So they cut those out.
Why did Jaws like this area so much?
Great question. Well, you see, there's lots of food source in the water.
No
Okay,
competition.
but here's another question. Where is he from? Because to get this size, obviously he's been alive for a long time till he grows to this size. Where was he feeding before now?
The Atlantic Ocean on all the whales and dolphins and
So
Honestly-
Jaws took out whales?
probably real
Original
real,
Jaws?
25-foot apex
Original
predator.
Jaws?
Absolutely.
real
But he
yeah,
wasn't that big before. Like, where is my Baby Jaws miniseries?
Hey, there's a baby Jaws in
That's
Jaws
what I
3.
want.
Jaws 3
No, no,
has
no.
the baby
I
Jaws.
want-
David, if
like
you're not
a
willing to accept the fact
Netflix.
that there could be such a thing as a shark vacation, I think you're just overthinking this movie a little too much.
I would watch Jaws on vacation.
So
I think we just came up with a new comedy series that needs to
I
be
also
made.
think that is just Jaws 4, where they go to the Caribbean or wherever they go in Revenge.
I don't know,
Because
I'm
that one
not-
makes
I-
no sense. Why
don't
did
think
the
it's-
shark in Jaws 4 follow a family down to the Caribbean?
Maybe they smelled really good.
No,
Well,
it had like a psychic connection with Ellen Brody, if I remember.
Such a,
See, that
that's
makes
such a
no
weird,
sense.
like,
Why
yeah.
did they do that?
You got to give them shock telepathy, you know. So
I mean, what I'm excited for. I don't know if you guys knew this. Kevin Smith is actually making a movie that he got inspired by Jaws, but he said it's basically Jaws, except instead of a shark, it's a moose, and it's literally going to be called Moose Jaws.
I was gonna say they call it Moose Jaws, like
Yes.
that's
Apparently,
only-
I think it's
only
supposed to come out like
acceptable
later
anyway.
this year, and that sounds incredible and maybe scarier than Jaws. Because I mean, we all know how you beat the shark. You just don't go to the
you
water.
just don't go in the water, dude. Yeah,
Game
shoot it
over.
from land.
You're good. But a moose.
The moose, then you go in the water.
No, moose
and
can
then it
swim.
gets eaten by
No,
the
they can,
crocodile.
they can swim
just-
better than
You ever
us.
seen moose?
Yeah,
a
I just
moose-
looked up the poster for it, and yeah, it's literally the antlers sticking out of the ocean.
I don't think
water.
that's real. I think that's fan made, but I hope that's what it is.
But I
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be really funny.
That's from IMDb, so I'm guessing it's real.
Yeah, no, one of the moose's known natural enemies is the orca, because orcas will pick them off while they're eating underwater. They'll go like 20 feet underwater.
yeah, they go and
Um,
eat sea moss.
Did you just
Wow.
say a moose's natural enemy is an orca?
Yeah,
Yes. Off
Oh
off
my
of-
god. All right, never mind. We're not doing a Jaws Junior series. We are going an in-depth mini-series about the war between whales and moose.
Because moose they eat sea moss, dude, and that's where you get it. They'll go dive down all deep or whatever and hold their breath and go eat sea moss. But yeah, orca don't care.
And how about, all right, in our series, the sea moss is going to be mildly radioactive or something, so it's going
Okay.
to give the moose abilities.
Ooh, or you could do like sea moss off 3 Mile Island. You know what I'm saying? Like
I like where you're, yes, so it's already there.
village.
And the
you
orca
know,
are intelligent enough to know that it's there, and they're trying to avoid this because if the moose all have powers, that's game over for everybody. I mean,
That's also
super
fair.
powered moose, we're done.
first of all,
the only thing that could take out a superpowered moose, I feel like, would be Cocaine Bear.
Oh,
not
but
even
he's
then.
dead. We got to
Not-
revive him.
That's
First.
the ultimate crossover.
Berg, not even then, right? Like, I don't know if you guys understand how big a moose actually is. So,
Oh,
for
no, they're-
reference, I am 5.5 feet tall, right? So, you know, me, Keegan, and Dave are all about the same size. So 5.5 feet tall, right? And being 5.5
And moose
feet
would be
tall,
bigger.
yes, I can stand up inside one side of its antlers, like, and I am about as tall.
I
as
think
one
from
side
some of the
its
videos I've seen, you can almost drive under a moose. Not quite, but almost.
Yes, like their backs, right? Like, you know, like hand height wise, they're like Clydesdales, dude. They're huge.
They're literally almost the size of like a one-story house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they fight in your front yard in Alaska. It's crazy.
all right. So, guys, stay tuned. We'll be doing a deep dive on that at some point in the future.
So cocaine bear necromancy. Let's remember that. We're gonna get back to that. All right, Jaws.
Johnny, write this down.
So,
Yeah.
so going
Yeah,
back to your
totally.
question as why the shark is where it's located, it's because it's. I know Benchley came out and kept saying it was not based off the Jersey attacks in 1916, but it very clearly shares similarities, and both the book and movie bring up the 1916 attacks, which took place over 4th of July weekend by a great white shark. Though in that one, it swam upriver into Matawan Creek and attacked 4 people,
Which
and
is
actually
crazy.
had a tug of war between some kids and their brother and the shark who was trying to pull the kid back into the water.
Interesting. Yeah, like there's only so many
Cool.
sharks that can do that. Most
So
notably,
it was that
bull
and
shark.
Frank Mundus, correct?
As far as some of the characters, yeah.
Like, well, inspiration for the book.
Yeah, I mean he's come up later because there's a documentary. It's like I forget what it was, but Benchley was also big into sharks and was friends with Rodney Fox, who was a big guy with sharks. So that's where some of the inspirations. He's change what he said because he feels bad about like the reputation sharks got, and so he actually wrote a whole like pro shark book and just going into the science of sharks called Shark Life later. But yeah, I know Quinn's character was based on a local fisherman, or at least his accent, a local fisherman that was kind of advising them. And he's like, I'm just going to take that on. But Shaw was also like drunk the majority of the filming, it sounds like.
Sounds like it.
Hmm.
Comes through a little bit. But I know it's one of those things like, so for me, I actually watched, I've never like watched Jaws, like I said, as a kid. But one of my favorite movies when I was much younger was a movie called The Master of Disguise. So
Okay.
Yes, with Dana Carvey.
with Dana Carvey, yeah,
Back
Turtle
to
Club.
Master of Disguise.
yes. So and in that movie, he impersonates Quint like to some degree, like one of his like he's like trying to run away from the bad guys or whatever, but he's sitting on a pond and he's like dressed like him or whatever and sounding like him. And so like that was like my first like experience with that, is like I just thought that was funny like as a kid, right? I didn't know he was doing a character from like older movies. So like later on, you know, I mean, it made sense or whatever, but I just always, it's funny like that was my introduction to that character, was technically through The Master of Disguise. So
Well, and
yeah.
if you watch
I
one
read
of the
a million years
Piranha
I've ever
films,
guessed that a conversation about Jaws would loop back to Master of Disguise, but
Full circle, my guy.
finds a way.
yeah, if you watch one of the, I think it's the first Piranha, the new one that they made, not the original. Richard Dreyfuss actually, I guess, kind of brings back the Hooper character, like he's dressed as him and everything, and then he gets eaten by the piranha. So he's like, he survived the shark, but
But
didn't
not the fish.
survive the piranhas. Because to be fair, Hooper was supposed to die, but when they were filming the live scenes, Rodney Fox, the person in the cage had left when the shark attacked, and so they're like, I guess he's gonna live now. So that's why Hooper lives that scene.
Interesting.
Happy accident.
Yeah. Well, so and that's another thing too, is like, because you're talking about like how some of these animals get like a bad rap after, you know, after some of these movies, right? Like, because like realistically, yes, they are man eaters and they can be, but like great white sharks are not out to get us. You know what I mean? Like,
No, they just want food. They don't
right.
care.
And it's one of those
Yeah.
things that most of the time, like, they're gonna come and take an investigation bite and then go, oh, that's not food, and leave you alone. You know what I mean? Only problem is when you're a 20-foot great white shark and you're a 5.5-foot man, like there's a huge size disparity there. The test bite is going to be a, you know what I mean, rather large. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, it's even kind of relatively been proven. Like, you know, because I grew up, right, just immediately thinking that like, oh, don't bleed in the water because sharks are going to come and get you. Human blood is actually not even appealing to sharks. Like, it's literally got to be fish. Now, the, you know, splashing around and doing all that kind of stuff, like, activates predator mode, you know, predator sense kind of thing. So you don't want to do that. But it's just one of those things, like, they do get a bad rep for, like, that kind of stuff. And, like, same thing
I think Jaws is 100% what started kind of that stigma against sharks.
Oh, I think so. 1,000%.
Yeah, it's 100% the case.
And I mean, and most shark attacks, it's usually because sharks apparently do not have very good vision. So
Yeah, no.
anything that they see like a human, they think it's a seal or something from the shadow above or whatnot. And once they realize it's not, they usually stop attacking.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they leave you that test bite, right? They go, oh, that's not it.
I think
However,
great
will
whites
tell
are some
you-
of the only ones that just say, whatever, I'm going to eat anything smaller than me.
However, I will tell. I think tiger sharks do the same thing. That's the ocean's trash can.
Yeah, tiger sharks, bull sharks, oceanic white tips.
But I will say
Yo,
that
so
you
stop talking about your white tips, okay?
you will not catch me in a black wetsuit off the coast of South Africa, ever.
Black wetsuit. white
That sounds.
tip.
Did
What
you
is
just get
it?
racist on us? What?
What have you not ever? Okay, who here other than me has watched Shark Week like pretty semi-religiously?
I mean, I've watched it in high school, but like Jaws takes place in Martha's Vineyard.
Right. Hold on, let me get there. You guys have never ever seen the flying sharks?
That's
jump, like-
Sharknado, buddy. That's different. That's not Shark Week.
No.
That's
That's
sci-fi.
fucking air
Those-
jaws.
No, those
Air
are shark.
jaws.
Those are tornado propelled sharks. That's way different. I'm
You
talking.
do realize like Shark Week is made like has a lot of fake content, right?
Well,
No,
nowadays
it's on Discovery. It's all real.
they've zhuzhed it up a little bit, okay? But I'm saying, like, no, the sharks that literally attack from below.
I have seen that where they launch themselves. Yeah.
Bro, they launch
breaching.
themselves out of the water. That's why I was like, you will never see me in a black wetsuit looking like a seal off the coast of South Africa, because that's where those guys they go ham.
What about
I'm not trying to be anybody's spam. You feel me?
What about a neon green wetsuit? Is that more acceptable?
No, because that would be even more bright to the sharks. It would stick out.
No, he's trying not to look like a seal.
I'm trying not to look like a seal.
So green would be green or pink. I think like a hot pink.
Like a hot pink.
Yeah.
Like a pink man?
I think we could do that.
Yeah. But no, it's
pink and green are not seal colors, guys.
Their eyesight is.
I know.
Awful,
that's
right?
why we're saying we can do that.
Yeah, like their eyesight is awful. But
I'm
it is
fine
one of
with
those things
pink
that's
and green.
anything that looks like a seal or food. You're just like, I'm gonna test it. Is this food? It's pretty much like every great white shark is essentially Patrick. Is this mayonnaise? Like it's, you know what I mean?
But to go back to the stigma of sharks, when the original 1916 attacks, like the first one happened, they thought it was a group of sea turtles that attacked the person. They were like, no way could it be a shark. Sharks wouldn't do that to people. Sea turtles.
Insane.
So
after the second attack, they realized it was a shark.
You definitely know they look a
like
lot like
I get them being like sharks wouldn't do this, but turtles would.
Yeah, apparently turtles had a stigma of biting swimmers at that time.
Interesting. Not taking
Finding Nemo lied.
Stigma or fact?
We've come a very long way in 100 years.
Greyson, we'll switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about maybe the acting and cinematography. What did you take away from this film?
You can definitely tell that Roy Scheider liked drinking booze while he was being Officer Brody, at least in the later parts of the movie. But that's me more joking than anything. It's really well done. The direction, the cinematography, all of it's well crafted. The acting's fantastic. There's a reason why it's a classic. There's a reason why it's as fantastic as it is, and it was because Steven Spielberg put his all into it to make a name for himself, and he did with this movie.
I definitely second that, Grayson.
Yeah. I mean, it's the scenes stick with you. Like, you know, when he's they're scuba diving just to try to see like where if there's any evidence of the shark anywhere, and they find, you know, the dead body in the sunken ship. That always makes me jump out of my skin every single time. And I know it's coming, but and then John Williams' score, classic. Just there's no way you can't feel that just ominous feeling every time you hear that song whenever it's on.
John Williams repeatedly came with the bangers, man. Like you go back and like literally almost listen to like anything like that we love, like as far as classics, like movies and things like that, and it's almost always him.
Dude,
like,
he's still doing it into his 90s. It's insane.
Right. To be doing that for so long is crazy. But for you to have so many like classics, you're like, oh yeah, this was him. Shit. Like, but you're right. The emotion is there, right? Like that the whole like literally Jaws, the sound is iconic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like synonymous with Jaws, obviously, but like iconic. Like you do that anywhere, and I think even that you're like Berg, you haven't even seen Jaws, you still know. You go, oh, that's Jaws. You know, like that's insane. But yeah, Grayson, I agree, man. Like as I said, I mentioned earlier, like it's the first time watching it all the way through. But I like halfway through this movie, like I'm watching, I go, man, they don't make shit like they used to. Like it's just because I know, like you said, like you just know things are coming, and it still gets you. Like I'm still sitting there, like watching that scene that boat scene, right? And I'm like, yep, nope, dead body's gonna pop out because that's exactly how this happens every time, right? See, you know what I mean? We've seen it a million times since then. But like I'm sitting here watching, and I'm like, yep, still worked, still got me a little bit, you know? It's how it goes. And you're like, damn, that's like a mark of a good movie. Is like sometimes is like rewatchability, right? Like how many times can I rewatch this movie, but somehow I'm still invested, and it still gets me every time.
100%, Nolan. I mean, honestly, I think to your point, I think storytelling is becoming an art that's quickly dying just for glitz and glamour, and it's unfortunate because I know that there are people that are looking to tell good stories, but for some reason, Hollywood only believes that everybody's attention span is only 10 seconds long and that there's nothing really profitable or worthwhile in actually giving a good story too. And I think that's bullcrap. I think, in all honesty, it's because they don't want to put the money, they don't want to put the time there, just trying to chase trends so quickly that they're unwilling to let just something simmer, cook, and be good and present
Right.
to see how the audience actually responds.
And it's one of those things, like, I completely agree with that sentiment, but the one thing I do disagree with is the attention span. Because, dude, I can't tell you how many people, like, I have tried to, like, show movies to, and, like, they just can't do it because their attention span isn't long enough. Like, that's why, like, TikTok and, you know, all these, like, YouTube things are a thing, is because it's 5 minutes of their time, and that's the max amount of attention span they can essentially have, man.
That's what's hurting theaters, is the thought of having to sit in a dark room and focus on one thing for more than
for
20
2
minutes
hours,
at a time.
an hour and a half. Yeah, man, but it's really unfortunate, because you're exactly right. We don't get any good products that actually get to be developed and get to actually have a little bit of growth and maybe actually build a fan base. You know, like, as much as I love watching, you know, some of our old stuff, like, they bring it back, and it's like, I'm surprised we're not on Jaws like 75, but it you know what I mean? At some point it starts to die off, and it's not as great, right? Look at what the rehash of Scream. It was okay at best. You know what I mean? And there's 6-7 of those movies.
Hold on, I like the recent Scream. The one before it was kind of but I think the most recent one was okay.
I mean, but my point is they still have to, like, reboot it and try to, like, bring it back, and it's like,
well, I feel like horror is one of those genres that they do that. Like, you have to they just keep going.
What's
you don't have to change much.
53, you know, like,
exactly, yeah. Like, Michael just died for the 20th time.
Right. Well, it's like, how many times
he's really
die?
dead now.
To that point, I think it's just
he's actually dead now. Wink.
No, he's dead now.
And then the next movie starts with a necromancer, and oh my god, he brought Michael back.
Oh. But I think just to that point, it's because it's the only way to shake some people loose out of their, you know, soul-sucking attention span, time spent through TikTok. And I think, in all honesty, just on the side tangent of side tangents, I do think that movies are probably going to start being less lustrous and less, you know, what everybody wants to be, because either A, they're going to stop trying to make movies as long and just start going into short form content, or they're going to, I don't know, they're going to try to go as long as they can until they peter out. But I think if they started scaling back a little bit, I think they'd be able to at least start getting some more movie fans into it, and then create a whole new fan base if they actually started making good movies again.
Well, it's also crazy too, because, like, I think about it now, right? Like, I was like, this movie was long for its time. Jaws at 2 hours is a long ass movie for the 70s. And, like, because most of the movies that we watched growing up, you're 90 minutes max, brother. Like, it. And I think
but you have to understand, when they shot Jaws, they did it all at one time, because Robert Shaw didn't even know he was in a movie.
He
thought this was really happening. So to play along with that, they just kept shepherding him from one scene to another and giving him, you know, keeping him really drunk in between, so he never really thought about it.
You just never.
But
are you sure that's not Apocalypse Now with Marlon Brando?
Look, there's a little bit of whiskey right there on your mark. Go over there.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Yeah. John, what about you? What do you think of the acting and cinematography for this film? And when you're done with that, I just want your thoughts on the unmade King Kong versus Orca movie.
Okay.
Just your thoughts there.
Well, I think, I mean, the acting and the cinematography is great, but I think because I'm a writer, what I gravitate towards is the momentum and the pacing of Jaws. I think it has a really solid, like, 3-act structure, with the first act, you know, the mystery of the shark, and then I think the second act is the July 4th beach attack, and then, like, all of Act 3 is out on the boat. So I just think it had really great pacing, and that's probably what I really appreciate about it. Yeah, I'm a big Orca fan, so I think Orca is a pretty good movie. I almost don't even consider it a Jaws ripoff. I just think of it as inspired by the success of Jaws. But yeah, I really wish they could have done, instead of King Kong versus Orca, I wish they would have just done King Kong versus Jaws, because Universal at the time owned, like, film rights to King Kong as well. So they could have done King Kong versus Jaws. And I really wish they would have. I think that would have been pretty cool. And then they kind of like nodded at it in that Ape movie from Korea, because an ape, he like wrestles a dead shark in a bathtub, and yeah.
But like, how do you? Okay, so like, how do you make that a thing though, right? Because like, you can't just have like a gorilla stand in the water and have a shark like take runs at him, you know? Because like that's really like, and the shark's not coming on land to like come and take a bite out of his ass while he's asleep.
All right, Nolan. What about this? What if we gave Jaws a mech suit? Would that solve your problem?
No.
It's like it's a big like fishbowl looking thing with jaws in it, and then he's got like a big robot body with that as his head.
Things.
And he's
So wait, is it a bigger shark that's a robot, or is it a human body robot with a shark as a head?
We can say it's a bigger. We can say it's a bigger shark robot.
Like, at least Sharktopus was like, okay, he can walk on the tentacles, and Octopus can be out of the water for any point of time. So like that works. But like, you know, it's like, are we just gonna put this like monkey underwater, like trying to fight off a shark with a spear? Like, I don't.
So Nolan, what you didn't know is Peter Benchley wrote a book called White Shark that became a TV series called Creature, where the shark is mutated and has legs and arms and can walk on land.
Now it sounds like Street Sharks, and they're bringing that back, which I'm all about, by the way. Loved that one. So glad they're bringing that one back. I really hope they don't mess it up, you know. But John, I got a question, because you know you're talking about the structure or whatever. As far as you know, this movie goes, and it does have a very solid 3-act structure. So like I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, it really does. But my question for you is how, like as a writer, right? Like how do you feel about when you're like watching a movie like this, where they don't immediately show you the creature or you know, like whatever the entity is, right? That's causing havoc, because like it's one of those things like you don't see
like
the shit.
Cloverfield?
They don't, huh?
Like Cloverfield?
I never watched Cloverfield because I thought it was dumb. But
Or Godzilla 2014.
Hey, hang on, you can't say a movie's dumb if you've never watched it.
I can think the premise is dumb, Berg.
It's
So the premise of a giant monster coming out of the ocean is stupid.
I don't like found footage. Like that just killed it for me.
That's understandable. That's
like,
not everyone's cup of tea.
Blair Witch Project either. You know what I mean? I don't. I can
Those
barely stand
kids
paranormal
died for
activity
that
on top of
movie,
that.
dude.
It's just. Anyways, but like, how do you feel about like not seeing the creature until like it's like time? You know what I mean? Because like I feel up until like the 4th of July attack, you don't see the fin. You know what I mean? You don't see anything, right? And then the 4th of July attack happens, and then it's all shark, all from there, baby. Like I'm kind of a fan of that. Like I like that build of suspense. So like, what's your take on that? Like, how do you feel?
I think it totally worked for Jaws, just because that would be true of real life, that maybe you wouldn't know when the shark was under the water unless the fin was showing, and then part of it too is just not knowing what's underneath the water. So yeah, with Jaws, I think it totally worked. Whereas with like the Grizzly ripoff, I can't really remember how long they waited to show the Grizzly at this point, but like, yeah, with like land-based monsters though, I think you should show the monster. And Keegan mentioned Godzilla 2014. That was a beef that lots of people had, that he kept hiding Godzilla, even though we know what Godzilla looks like. And so yeah, I agree. Like some movies can get away with that, and some movies can't. I don't think Godzilla 2014 got away with it, but Jaws, it really suited Jaws for sure.
Okay. Now, what about never showing the creature? How do you feel about that?
That's terrible. It's horrible
You think
idea.
it's a terrible idea?
Yeah.
Because like they go, it's a suspense thing. It's a mystery. You're not sure what to be scared of the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of dumb. That's a cop out to me, you know?
I mean, up until we see Jaws for the first time, I thought it was possibly a giant turtle.
I think the only movie we're not seeing the creature. By the way, Grayson, you're muted. We didn't hear what you just said. I think the only movie where you don't see the creature and it works is Bird Box.
I knew you were going to say Bird Box, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. I was like, Bird Box was not scary to me for the simple fact that I didn't know what the fuck to be scared of. Like,
dude, so Bird Box is scary. Bird Box is scary to me because of the fact that I have tinnitus. So I thought I would have heard like voices while I was trying to sleep.
That's called schizophrenia, buddy.
That's a different.
No, it's not called schizophrenia. It's not schizophrenia. I have a degree in psychology. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to schizophrenia.
This is when we beautiful mind you, and it turns out we're not even here.
Because
you're sitting at your desk without even a computer turned on, just talking.
Because I also be rocking that tinnitus life, my guy, and yeah. I've never heard anybody talking to me like that. Just, but yeah, it's one of those things. Like I go back and forth, right? Because it's like they'll maybe show you like a hand or, but just very, very minimal kind of stuff. And I'm like, I feel like showing them at the right time definitely helps. I don't know if we're calling this a monster movie or not, but definitely helps with like the monster movies of like seeing what's actually like getting people, you know what I mean? So, and I think they do a great job, right? Because it builds up that suspense or whatever the whole time. They're like, well, it's the shark. And it's like, okay, yeah, is it? Like, is it? And then they finally like get to it and you're like, it's a big ass shark. So yeah. And then of course, like, the way that like the way they set it up towards the end, when you actually looking at like the size of the shark and how big it is compared to the boat, really kind of like helps drive that point home of like, damn, this is a big ass shark, you know?
I mean, no, to kind of to your point, I think if it's more of like look at The Thing, right? With the way that it unveils the creature, it does so like up until about the halfway point, then just the creature continually morphs and is more horrific each time you see it.
Each time you see it. And that's I think that's a cool concept, right? Is like just kind of like making it look ugly or scary or whatever, like as time goes on. And I think they do that with Jaws, right? Like they just show you the dorsal fin a little bit and they're like, shark, you kind of like freak out a little bit, but they don't show you teeth or nothing. Like,
okay, what about like The Thing?
Well, that's what I'm building up to, is that with The Thing,
Where
I think
it
depends on the situation. Like if it's something where the mystery is what is more horrific than the actual thing, you have to keep it kind of suspended in, obscurity. But if it's going to be the horror is the actual entity, you build up the suspense and then you reveal it the entire rest of the way through and make it more horrific each time you see it.
Well, see, but that the thing is like the thing is different in the regard of it's a body snatcher, right? And it can be anybody. Like this is, it's like this can only be a shark,
That's kind of what I'm saying, is that it depends on the context of the being that you're using as the object hidden in the shadows. Okay. And if you're willing to if you're going to use the shark motif, I think this one is, or not the motif, but just the shark as the actual object of fear in the story. This does really well with it, where it gives you just enough to see it, but doesn't let it overstay its welcome to make you realize how corny the actual model looked. It showed up, it did its job, and then they took it back off. Because we forget, too, that model barely worked. And they were able just to get very little, actual footage with it. And what they used for, editing and everything was fantastic. Because that thing, barely worked half the time that they had that movie going.
Yeah, because they had, 3 or 4 of them. And the one was, kind of passable. But once they got into the salt water, they just sank or malfunctioned. And
which, saltwater wreaks havoc on a lot of things, especially non-saltwater protected, just anything, really.
Yeah, hydraulics and saltwater, not friends. Not great.
Friends, yeah.
Well, here, let's throw it around, because Jaws, everyone knows, is pretty much the best there is with shark movies. But, David, is there another shark movie that's worth a watch, you think?
I think... I mean, just for what it is, you've got to throw the Sharknado movies in there.
Classic. Like at this point, really, it's a classic. Those are
classic. like worth watching if you're trying to say because it's a fantastic movie. God, no. It is not by any stretch a good series or good movies. Though I will say, Sharknado 3, it's about time, and then it's literally about time travel. Genius title. But I would have to say it's one of the more ridiculous things that has actually made its way into, I think, the general pop culture of just absurd. And I think it did take its roots from Jaws. I don't think there exists any shark movie today that was not at least somewhat inspired by Jaws and what they did there. I feel like this is the granddaddy of all of them, because before this, like you said, shark attacks happened and people were like, was it turtles? So, so clearly it is a relatively within the last, century or so that sharks have been seen as this could be a narrative bad guy, basically, of that level.
And I'm sure
because again, as scary as sharks can get, they still are just in the water. It does take some storytelling finesse to say, why is this a threat? Why don't we just stay out of the water? Why don't we just bomb the area and blow it up? Like, there's a lot of plot you have to sew up, and Jaws was able to do it without any too glaring issues or anything like that. So I think a lot of shark movies are a lot of fun. A lot of monster movies in general, I think, with just like creatures, have taken a lot from what Jaws did. So I think there's plenty of movies out there that owe it its thanks.
Oh yeah.
But Jaws is by far the one that I would say, like, you have to have seen this one. And then secondary, Sharknado is fun just for what it is, but don't go into it expecting a good movie.
No.
Go into it expecting to have fun, but not great cinema.
It's so bad that it's good type situation.
That's literally what they are. But I respect it because they knew that going in.
Oh, you got to lean into it. We've
knew
had this
that
conversation.
it was
like,
yeah,
you lean into it, you might get something good out of it, you know?
Right. Like, I can
Just trying to
respect
play
it
it
if you know what you're doing. If you're like, yeah, we know it sucks, that's why we're doing it. Like, okay.
Right?
It's like The Room.
Yeah, so bad that it's good.
Where everybody but him acknowledged that it was going to be awful.
It's just be terrible, right?
But somehow it's
just
even
that's
better
life.
that he thought that you know, that's a whole different episode. I'm sorry, we can't get into this.
I think we can do a whole episode on The Room.
Right,
Dude,
we'll do The Room another time.
I want to do The Room so bad.
I was thinking
Nick, what about you?
that's a Waffles episode for sure.
Yes.
Can I hop in here and
Yeah,
throw
yeah,
in
go ahead.
one of, because like I said, I hadn't really watched all of it until like I said today, but the one that I remember the most, just because it was like prime time of like you're a kid and stuff be scary, but Deep Blue Sea, man, like, so good, but like also super terrifying. And that one was like, so because he mentions in here, he's like, we've either got a really smart shark or a really dumb shark, right? But it's one of those ones that, like, Deep Blue Sea was even crazier, because it's like, this is what happens when you essentially give like an apex predator more brains, like more smarts, you know what I mean? And it made sense, because it was like, oh, we're doing brain research on whatever it is. Like, I don't know, they came up with some enzyme that sharks possessed or whatever to help with like Alzheimer's or some shit, right? But it's just like, oh, okay, this is what happens when you give like sharks like a jacked up brain and they can actually think, and you're like, well, that makes it even more scary. Like, that's terrifying. Like, gators are already really smart animals to begin with, and it's like, man, if you made an alligator or a crocodile even smarter, like, they become even more apex predatory. But yeah, Deep Blue Sea was, oh man, that one was crazy and fun, because everybody's literally like, you're stuck. Like David said, like, you just don't go into the water. Yeah, that's not an option here. You know what I mean? Like, you're literally on a floating barge, like, tower thing that's in the middle of the ocean. Like, there is nowhere for you to go. And it's, they're going to get you. Like, that's just end all be all of it, But yeah, that one was another really, I thought it was fantastic, but really freaking scary at the same time. But then again, that is a very avoidable situation. Like, don't be a researcher on a floating barge in the middle of the ocean with giant mako sharks, which is even crazier, because they used, mako sharks because they're smarter than the average shark, but they usually don't get that big. And most of the time it's great whites that they're all about, but nope, they used the makos this time, and I thought it was a great choice. Plus Samuel Jackson, man, like, you get some classic lines from him.
Well, the one I was gonna mention was Deep Blue Sea. I used to watch that multiple times when I was a kid, and I liked that one a lot. The Meg was all right, I guess. I thought the Meg was kind of stupid, but it had spawned a sequel, I guess. So.
Don't you say that about Jason Statham.
That one's again very different than
Don't you do
this.
it.
Grayson, what about you?
David and Nolan both took what I was going to pick anyway. So, we're going with the wild pitch. We're going with the odd ball. We're going with the wild card. A Shark Tale, It's a story about acceptance and struggle and strength. And you learn a lesson along the way, and you become endeared to the characters.
And there is a Jaws reference in there, right?
It taught me quite a bit. There is a Jaws reference in there. So, hey, Comes full
It's our
circle.
theme song.
But I mean, my thing is like realistically, at the end of the day, is my sister just had a baby. Yeah, it's really hard, but it's rewarding.
Speaking of Tommy Wiseau and all that, and Jaws, all that Jaws ripoffs. Tommy Wiseau has a movie that he just released in 2023 called Big Shark.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like just now coming out. When I went to see The Room, when he was there, like presenting it, he showed us a trailer. They're literally standing outside in New Orleans, and they're like, "Hold on, what's that?" And there's a flood out of nowhere on the streets of New Orleans. Like it just suddenly water, and there's just a giant shark. They're like, "Oh no, it's a big shark!"
Okay, I will say, as far as location goes, that's a very plausible thing, right? You know, like
to be fair,
normal
I'm
British
just guessing. I'm just guessing New Orleans. Knowing him, it's probably like Cincinnati.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like there's like ways to do things, and there's ways to not do things.
It's actually Vancouver.
Yeah, just the wild, mean streets of Vancouver. There's lots of flooding somehow.
John, what about you?
I'm the weird one. I've never seen Deep Blue Sea. I mean, I'm aware of it, of course, but I guess I need to watch it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a
But,
good one, man.
I'll-
Samuel Jackson.
I'd like to see it. I just need to. I just never got around to it.
One of the what's his face is one of the doctors. Skarsgård, the older one, the dad, Father Skarsgård,
Oh, okay.
is in it. It's not Bill.
Stillin.
That one. Yes.
Yeah, Stillin
Yeah.
Skarsgård.
He's in it. Yeah, no, to me that's one of those like classic, like I think of like as far as like sharks go, it's like Jaws, and then like that one is like Deep Blue Sea. Yeah. And then of course you have to always make spinoffs or like sequels, and the second one was awful. As is tradition, right?
I didn't even know there was a second one until just
There's
tonight.
three. There's three.
Yeah,
Didn't
that's
know
what
that
I'm saying.
until
Like,
just
don't waste your
tonight.
time. Well, because the first one was like a big production or whatever, right? Like you have movie stars in there, like Samuel Jackson's pretty popular, Thomas Jane's pretty popular,
Still in Skarsgård.
Stellan Skarsgård, right? Like you had a pretty good like LL Cool G's in that one too. Like
Yep.
So you have like a pretty good cast or whatever, and then yeah, like the not spin-offs, but like the sequels got straight to DVD type ish, like budget / funding, and they became even worse. So, but John, I would give a suggestion to go and check that one out. It's a pretty solid one.
Okay, I'll put it on my to-do list for sure. I'll go ahead and go with The Last Shark with James Franciscus. It's like the biggest Jaws ripoff ever. It was such a blatant ripoff. Universal like caused them to like pull it from theaters where they couldn't re-release it, and I think it still doesn't have like an official Blu-ray release.
Dang.
Oh damn!
So
What about Cruel Jaws that was labeled Jaws 5 when it came
Yeah,
out?
and I think Cruel Jaws lifts a lot of footage from The Last Shark, if I remember right.
Yeah. And that one does have a Blu-ray.
Yeah, it
release.
does. It's so weird.
Yeah.
okay, so now I've got a question, right? Because me and Aaron were talking about this earlier about like companies being like, "Hey, you can't do that," right? Like that's too close to whatever it is. It's like, how far does a movie have to go before like a studio will say something like that of like, no, that's a ripoff of this or whatever? Like, does it have to be the plot? Does it have to be the story? Because like you can make a movie with a shark in it. You know what I mean? It just like what makes it like a blatant ripoff, I guess, of Jaws? Because like people getting attacked by a shark doesn't seem like a very like IP type concept, right? That like be like, oh, well, you ripped that off from Jaws. It's like it's just a shark attacking people, bro. Like,
I think The Last Shark is like almost word for word a remake of Jaws. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and they have a character in it that's supposed to be like Quint,
Yeah.
but he's Scottish.
that sounds even better.
Yeah,
You're talking about the 1981 film, right?
yeah.
Okay. It is available on YouTube for free. Looks like you have the whole movie on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it.
Well, there
Interesting.
to throw my I don't know, because if we want to go so bad that they could be fun to watch with people, Sharks of the Corn is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's about sharks that live in the corn field.
That sounds
And
terrible.
They're having the 4th of July corn harvest, so they can't close the cornfields.
Oh my
It's
god.
very much a ripoff of like Jaws and Children of the Corn. It's so bad. It is terrible. Bait is one that wasn't too bad. Like Nick said, the Meg can be enjoyable. Very different than the movie, though. I wish they had kept it more in line with Alton's book, but he did give me free tickets to go watch it. So, Steve, thank you.
I forgot about what is it, 47 meters down or something?
Yeah, that's a big one. Open water.
Aren't those like the same movie?
Shallows.
It's like the Shallows or something? It's like the same concept where it's like a lady just stuck on a rock, like in the shallow area, and she just
Yeah.
can't swim back to the shore because the shark is right there.
And they were swimming next to a dead
hot lady
well.
stuck on a rock, all right?
What'd you say, Grayson?
It's a hot lady stuck on a rock. Get the plot correct, Nolan, all right?
You're right. It's Blake Lively, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay. It's like just here's hot lady stuck on rock and shark. All right, there we
Plus
go.
Shark, yeah.
2 hours later.
Yeah, I was like, what? This is a very novel concept. Yeah, I was gonna say I forgot about those for a second, but I know those were kind of popular of like other shark movies. It's like, but why? Oh, what was the one that they were like sharks in France or something not too long ago?
I think that was Sharknado. But...
No. It was like a Netflix movie or something.
Oh, and then Blood in the Water, which is Shark Week's like movie presentation of the actual 1916 attacks, is pretty good.
Huh. So it wasn't turtles.
No, I've never suspected sea turtles of just mauling people to death, but apparently that was a thing.
I don't know. I heard
you were
some of
right.
them are
It is
ninjas.
called Under Paris is the name of the movie. And
There it is.
on Netflix.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they had like sharks in Paris or some shit. Was like in the canals. I was like, that's silliness. But yeah, I love it when sharks are places that sharks should not be, like halfway up the Missouri River, where they find bull
Silly
sharks
shark,
sometimes.
you don't belong there.
Yeah, that's insane to me. By the way, sometimes
When they
how high
found
they
them
find.
outside of
What are you
Chicago.
doing in a coin shack?
Yeah, you find sharks up the Missouri is crazy like that. Like, what? Why are you so high up here? That's terrifying.
That was the original concept for Jaws 3 before they went with SeaWorld, was that the shark swims into like an inland lake where nobody suspects it. So it was kind of an interesting, creepy concept.
Oh yeah, I mean, was it still a great white shark though? Like,
I think it was supposed to be like a big shark again, like another, ginormous one, but yeah, just no SeaWorld and no, like, that was the thing where they went off the rails on the sequels, is they always brought back the Brody family. And it would just made no sense. Like they didn't need them. They could have just come up with totally new characters to go against the shark. But
at some point, it just becomes this guy and frickin' sharks, man.
yeah,
At what point does it become a fetish? You know.
On their head and just call it a day. You know.
All right, well let's give our final thoughts, ratings. David, we'll start with you.
Just for Jaws in general?
Jaws in general, yeah.
I mean, it's a classic. I would say 9 out of 10. It's a great movie. It again, a lot of what we consider monster movies have a lot to thank with Jaws. This is one of the first major ones that really had a creature versus man kind of thing, and it's so good. We're talking about it 50 years later. So I got to say, fantastic movie, best movie starring a shark. 9 out of 10.
I like that line. Best movie starring a shark. I'd probably go 8.5, 9 out of 10 as well. It's iconic. It's the reason why everyone's terrified of sharks now, even though, as we discussed earlier, they're not super dangerous to humans, but they can be. But yeah.
Oh, and I was scrolling through shark movies. There's a movie called Cocaine Shark.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
When did it come out? When did it come out?
But Cocaine Bear
2023.
actually happened.
Yeah, Cocaine Bear the bear
was real.
eating cocaine was
I've
real.
met Cocaine Bear,
Yeah.
so
I've met Cocaine Bear.
All right. On that note, yeah, I'll give it a 9. It's definitely, as everybody else has said, as I've said, we're still talking about it. It made Steven Spielberg who he is. It's definitely, if there was no Jaws, there'd be no Spielberg, there'd be no blockbuster season, cinema would not be what it is today without Jaws. So it is going to be a classic no matter how old we get, no matter how old the movie gets. It'll be one of the greatest films of all time. I think it's even, isn't it in like the Smithsonian like reserve or registry or something like that?
The historic film archive.
It's
yeah.
I think it's definitely considered one of the top 100 movies of all time.
Yeah, and I mean, there's good reason for it. It was Spielberg at the height of his powers, and there's good reason why we're still talking about it 50 years later. So, yeah, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Just mostly because I don't really watch scary movies like this. But yeah, no, it's like Grayson said, it's iconic, man. It's lasted. It holds, and if I mean, it holds up too, right? Like I'm like watching this, and I'm like, you know what? Nothing really seems too weird or too janky. Like I was like, this movie still holds up, man. Like this still looks pretty damn good for being a 50-year-old movie, you know. And I don't think, if I'm being honest, a lot of movies can say that, right? There's some of them you go, oh man, these are some of these effects were not great, but some of the greats, you know, do hold up or whatever, right? And I think this is definitely one of them that does. But yeah, man, 8.5 out of 10. Classic, you know, music, score, story. A lot of horror movies, I think, as far as like the, you know, Apex Predator type movies, right? I'm not even Apex Predators, but just these type of like monster animal type movies all spawn from this. Because I don't think, legitimately, I don't think anybody was doing this right before Jaws, like having like making like a monster movie that happened to be like a real plausible animal that isn't some like weird like swamp creature, you know.
Are you counting King Kong in that? Because there's been King Kong movies before Jaws.
Right, but see, that's the thing, is nobody's afraid of a monkey. No one's afraid of an ape.
I would be terrified if I looked outside and saw King Kong.
Speak for yourself, Nolan. If I looked outside and I saw a 3-story, 4-story,
I am speaking for myself. I would want
running.
Okay, Nolan,
Hold on.
Nolan,
You know what?
Nolan,
Wait.
Are you
Let's
one
put
of
this to everybody. If you had to pick, if they said you have to either fight King Kong or fight Jaws, who are you going to pick?
Jaws.
Any
King
day.
Kong. Like, what do you mean? I don't
See,
have.
Nolan's one of the 100 guys gonna go fight that gorilla.
You're
He's
damn
signed
right.
up.
Him.
That's
Because
Silverback.
him by himself.
Because just maybe I can learn some sign language and we can communicate and be okay.
No.
Yeah,
King
I
Kong.
know.
King Kong is King Kong.
Bam.
Like,
King Kong is gonna flick your 5'5" ass out of the earth, out of the atmosphere.
Treat it like paper
gladly
football.
shake his ginormous monkey finger. Like, that's, you know, we call it truce, right? Maybe
Can you do that? Can you do that motion again?
Let's not.
motion again?
Let's not.
Absolutely not, Greg. You got it once. That's it. That's all you get. King Kong comes from what, 1920s, 1930s, somewhere.
33.
1931, I thought.
33.
But it was plausible to be able to grab a monkey that's giant and bring him, right? Nobody was thinking about.
We're grabbing monkeys now.
Not. Nobody was bringing in 30-foot shacks. Okay.
All right, so we're moving on. We've moved on from this.
Okay. Overall, like I said, 8.5. Great movie. Great.
Well,
story,
dude, I don't like
story.
to kink shame, but
8.5
this got
what?
really out of hand.
It was awesome. Everybody freaking loves Jaws. Okay, and I can say it like this because it was Martha's Vineyard, whatever. Fucking on the area. Rhode
I think she
Island,
actually.
New England.
Hey. I think she actually lost the vineyard when she went to jail. I think that was part of the.
Oh, was that in the contract, the clause? Yeah.
I think this dude Arnold owns it now, so it's Arnold's vineyard.
So it's Arnold's Vineyard. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
David or Grayson, while we're wrapping this up, would you be able to fact check to see if the guy that was swimming for 12 days in Martha's Vineyard got attacked by a shark?
He only got attacked by a turtle, it says.
Okay, well, there we go. Turtles do attack. John, your final thoughts and rating for Jaws?
Well, I have two things I have to say first. One is I totally agreed with Nolan. I would fight King Kong only because I think, like him, that I could like get him to identify with me as like another primate and communicate.
Right.
So like I totally agree with that because you couldn't communicate with the shark. And for anyone listening, I also wrote Kong Unmade. In addition to Jaws Unmade, there's also Kong Unmade. So if you buy a copy, it buys me a sandwich. So. But lastly, like, what do I think of Jaws? I would say when it first came out, Jaws was a 9 out of 10. But now, for historical value, I would actually give it a 10 out of 10, just because it's so important as a summer blockbuster.
Yeah, because before Jaws, summer movies were kind of just the February and January what we think now.
Mm-hmm.
They just threw movies out there because they probably wouldn't do well.
Really? Can we? Hey, Keegan, can we do like a deep dive on that of like iconic like summer movies that started to turn things into
Yeah.
like into it being like a movies that are released, May, June, or whatever, are like huge, generally the huge blockbusters or whatever.
Yeah, I'd be down. The
'Cause that'd be
history
kinda
of the
cool.
summer blockbuster. That'd be fun.
I think that'd be a cool episode.
Yeah. And for me, I would also rate it like John a 10 out of 10. It's one I've always really enjoyed. I grew up watching it a lot, but with age, I think you grow to appreciate more, and it really holds up, and it's become so iconic. Like you've made arguments, all you guys, with not even just like the shark in the film, but like what it's done for shark research. Is a lot of people got into sharks, like with Jurassic Park, did with dinosaurs, the soundtrack. I mean, it spawned video games, it spawned games, just like board games, it spawned theme park rides. I mean, it's a big property. I would say 10 out of 10, slightly better than the book, which like Jurassic Park, I rated both the book and film about the same as Jaws. But let us know, in the poll that we have on YouTube, which Steven Spielberg movie you thought was better, Jaws or Jurassic Park?
Oh, that's easy.
Both. It's easy. What do you think, David?
Jurassic Park.
I was like, that one's an easy one, just off top. Yeah,
Nothing against Jaws, but
no,
it's Jurassic Park.
it's
Come on.
yeah.
I will say so far the poll is tied 50-50 Jaws Jurassic Park films. As far as the book, it's 64-36 for Jurassic Park, the book.
And I'll
Jurassic
tell you what,
Park,
Keegan,
yeah, it's
and just Jurassic Park edges out Jaws, because I was at Phoenix Fan Fusion like last week or a week, whatever it was, like a weekend ago or something, and there was nobody there dressed like Jaws, but there were people there dressed like Doctor what's his face? I saw two people that were dressed like the Doctor. So like,
yeah,
Dr. Grant?
I've seen
Dr.
Dr.
Malcolm?
Grant, I've
Yeah.
seen Hammond, I've seen Malcolm,
And
I've even seen people being Nedry and holding like the sign and
I've
dressed
never.
like,
Well, that's what I mean.
yeah, come on.
I've never seen anybody cosplay anything from Jurassic Park, but this was like a pretty big con in Phoenix, right? But I was like, yeah, two of them. So I was like, okay, like that's
Well, Nolan, just for you, next time I see
Zero
you,
shark.
I'll dress up like Quint getting eaten by the shark next time.
I would love that. I need a half shark, like, kind of thing.
On top of his queen.
And he stole mine.
Huh?
I'm not understanding the question.
You had a single queen laying
No,
here.
I had two queens.
Yeah.
There should be three queens.
Oh,
in
that's
deck.
right, because he
He
had.
threw down a pair of queens his last two cards.
It's going to be horrible.
It's the only move you can do other than throwing cards.
Oh my god.
Did he get some? John, would I win the costume contest in Roswell if that's what I showed up as?
I don't think Roswell's savvy enough to appreciate it. Probably not, but you should. You should.
Speaking of Roswell, because I will be there. Who's all going? Who do I actually get to meet in person and hang out with?
John will be there, right?
Hi, John.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I
John.
will be there for that 4th of July weekend.
Do you want to
You know,
promote
sharp.
what you'll be
Okay,
doing there,
awesome.
John, for people listening?
Yeah, I'll be at this cool thing called Galacticon. It's like Roswell's version of a Comic Con. Just has lots of vendors selling books and sci-fi stuff that's more pop culture, like more pop culture type stuff. And it'll be located right along Main Street, not too far from the UFO Museum. So you can't miss it if you're walking down Main Street.
Now, John, could we get you to watch the parade if I told you Nolan is going to be in the parade this year?
Yes.
All right.
It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be fun. I'm just happy and excited because we actually we got invited. You know what I mean? Like I like when we get invited to things like that and we show up and just have fun. And I like seeing the people. You know what I mean? Like it's nice to see nerds such as myself. You know what I mean? Like seeing. I don't know about you guys, but I still get pretty like fanboy when I see some really cool shit. So and stuff like that makes me happy.
Nope, I don't. I'm dead inside.
We know it's fine.
We know.
Yeah.
Grayson, what about you? Are you able to go to Roswell this year?
We're gonna have to take a look at the budget, but hoping so. But we'll have to see. But I'll let you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, I'm well. You know, I'm going. It's because I'm a hard in here, so I've put this on the books many months ago when Aaron asked me or whatever. He's like, "Hey, we're doing the thing this year," and I was like, "Yes, I will." You know what I mean? 1000% be in this year, no matter what. You got me first, because I've got, people asking, oh, you coming to this for 4th? You going over here for the 4th? I'm like, nah, man, I'm already booked up. We're already doing Roswell. We're doing Aliens.
No, I'm excited for Roswell. John, we'll see you down there. And Nolan, be good to see you there as well. Stay tuned. We're doing lots of cool stuff. David's working on a new project that we've been really excited to, get to record some stuff for, so stay tuned for that. And the guys will be back for a very, very busy July as we talk Jurassic Park, Superman, and Fantastic Four. So the movie theaters, they'll know us by the end of this month. We will be there. But we will see you guys later.